Brian Kelly's final injury update and preview before LSU takes on Vanderbilt. We're coming to you from Nashville. It's Locked on LSU. Here we go.
You are Locked on LSU, your daily podcast on the LSU Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Okay, let's get it. It is Locked on LSU, your team every day. I'm your host, Matt Moscona. Thanks so much for making us your first listen. We're free, available wherever you get great podcasts, of course, on YouTube as well. So please subscribe. As always, one of the fastest ways to help us grow is by leaving your comments below. So thank you sincerely for that. Coming to you from the Marriott in Nashville, West End. If my room were on the other side of the hallway, I could set up a display where my backdrop would be Vanderbilt Stadium. But I'm actually looking instead at the street on the other side of the stadium. But right here in the shadows of First Bank Stadium in Nashville, Tennessee, where LSU and Vanderbilt will lock horns on Saturday morning, 11 a.m. And there's an awful lot of intrigue in this game. The Vanderbilt Commodores are a 2.5-point favorite. It's the first time Vanderbilt's been a favorite over LSU since the 1940s. It's the first time Vanderbilt has been a favorite over a top 10 team since the late 1970s. We're talking literally 50 years, half a century since we've seen this unfold. What will unfold Saturday in the stadium just off to my east. We'll find out in short order. By the way, I did mention the 11 a.m. kickoff. Brian Kelly told us on Monday that they were planning on practicing earlier with mid-semester break for the LSU Tigers. So they were going to treat it just like they would game day, where they'd get them up at 6 a.m., have a team meal, practice them at 11 a.m., just like they'd be ready to go for the 11 a.m. kick against Vanderbilt. Brian Kelly was asked on Thursday afternoon when he met with reporters after the early practice how that early practice has gone.
Yeah, I just think it's good to get in a routine like this, Mike. You know, get them up in the morning. That's similar to the same time that they're going to get up on Saturday. We'll do this again tomorrow. It's not like we haven't done it, but we haven't done it since camp, right? We had all of our practices at 10 a.m. In preseason, but you want to get back into that routine so it's not like, wow, this is different for me.
I can certainly appreciate the sentiment there. I also think the early games way easier on college athletes than it is on adults. Just to be completely candid, if you remember what it was like to be in college, maybe go to class on a Friday or even a Thursday and hit the bars Thursday night, didn't even go out until 11 o'clock, found your way home, hopefully safely, and then you were in class the next day or whatever the case may be. The point is, young people are way more resilient. Fans trying to go through a full work week, try to get some shut-eye, wake up early to be in the stadium for 11 and be full of energy, that can be a little bit more of a challenge. I think it's overblown, the impact that 11 a.m. kick may have on young people. Like Brian Kelly said, all throughout fall camp, they practiced before 10 a.m. I mean, the media availability was always at 9:30. So they were out there early, and I don't think that this is going to be any big deal, but the kickoff time. What could very well be a big deal are the injuries. Now, earlier on Wednesday, when the first availability report came out, Whit Weeks was listed as questionable. Bernard Gooden, doubtful. After practice on Thursday, Brian Kelly gave an update on the injury report, the availability report for his team.
Availability, Anderson, Mobanga, those guys are probable. Weeks and Jamari Butler are questionable, and Gooden is doubtful.
Okay, so if you're an everydayer, thank you. You were here for our previous episode. If you missed it, I would strongly encourage you go back and check out that episode because I went into great detail about LSU's depth on the defensive front seven and what it would mean if you didn't have Bernard Gooden, Jamari Butler, Whit Weeks, in addition to already losing Gabe Relaford. We went through a lot of snap counts, productivity. So that is something that I am not going to minimize. I think it is very significant, especially against this opponent, which is top 20 in the country in rushing offense and wants to control the clock, get into third and manageable, and run the football and shorten the game. You want to be really good in your defensive front seven. Bernard Gooden's your best defensive tackle. Whit Weeks is your best linebacker. You're already down Gabe Relaford. So your rotation has already been thinned a bit here for this game on Saturday. And that was not promising. The fact that Whit Weeks is questionable, and Bernard Gooden is doubtful. Now, I will tell you, I was Thursday at LSU Football Ops for the Brian Kelly media availability, and as I was leaving, I and a few other reporters saw Whit Weeks coming off the practice field after they had come off the practice field, I should say, walking into a team meeting or a position group meeting, and he had a boot on his right foot. So, by the way, he also cut his hair. Like when I say cut his hair, I mean he buzzed it. Now I'm bald, like I'm no guard, bald down to the skin. He was probably a 2-guard in my expert opinion, but Whit Weeks shaved off all his hair. So that's notable, and notable also that he was in a walking boot. Now it's worth noting sometimes the walking boot is just precautionary. With the LSU women's basketball team this past season, Flau'jae Johnson would wear a walking boot all around, and then she'd go play. And a lot of times it's stability to let it heal, to take some of the pressure off of the ankle, the foot, whatever it may be. And so as we understand, Whit's injury is soreness compounding from the break he had in the bowl game and then the subsequent surgery. So this is all a residual of that, but hopefully they get him ready to roll and ready to play on Saturday against Vanderbilt. Bernard Gooden there becomes complex as well, because Bernard Gooden has been your most valuable and most productive interior defensive lineman. So Brian Kelly was asked, what do you do if you don't have Gooden on Saturday?
Well, Mathis has done a really good job, right? He's been in a nice rotation there. So I think you'll see him get involved a little bit more. And that gives us 4, right? That gives us 4 guys inside where we feel like that's a pretty good rotation.
So the 4 then, without Bernard Gooden, would be Dominic McKinley, Jacobian Guillory, Ahmad Bro, and then Buddy Mathis, who Walter Buddy Mathis is who Brian Kelly's talking about there. Those would be your next guys up. So if you're just looking at snap counts, we talked about this already, but Bernard Gooden has played 222 snaps. That's tops among your defensive tackles. Next is Dominic McKinley at 168, and then Jacobian Guillory at 156, Ahmad Bro at 144. But again, Bernard Gooden has played more defensive snaps than any other defensive tackle that you have. Walter Mathis has played 60 defensive snaps. Brandon Brown has played 16. Joey August 5. Sean Washington's played 11. So really, it's been those 5, really your 4, and then big drop off before Mathis, who's played 60. And he has played in all 6 games, though. That's worth noting. He has been on the field for all 6 games. But the freshman, who's clearly the next guy in your rotation, may be asked to take a much heavier load on Saturday. Now, remember, when LSU lost Gabe Relaford for the season, the shoulder injury, Brian Kelly pointed out Dylan Carpenter as a guy likely to take on more of a responsibility. Well, he played 9 snaps against Ole Miss and then 13 snaps against South Carolina. That ain't a ton. Like, that's just really, guy taps his helmet, needs to come out for a play or 2, Carpenter goes in. Maybe a series, but that's about it. How many snaps might Mathis play if you need him in the event that Gooden can't go? And it certainly seems like Gooden isn't going to be able to go in this game. For what it's worth, the most snaps that Mathis has played in a game is the 15 he played against Southeastern. He also played 14 against Louisiana Tech, 10 each against Ole Miss and South Carolina, 9 against Florida, and just 2 against Clemson. So the point being, he hasn't played any more than 16 snaps. So, this might be a bigger load for Walter Mathis in a game where LSU might really need the enforcements on that defensive front, especially if Vanderbilt gets that offense churning the way they like to possess the football and chew clock and keep a defense on the field for the bulk of the game. And that is what I want to pick up on when we come back, because Brian Kelly, in no uncertain terms, talked about what the plan is to stop Vanderbilt's offense. He effectively is giving you the test. Like, here are the questions to the test. The only unknown is, can you find the answer? Can you execute the answer? You'll hear that from Brian Kelly when we come back. Locked on LSU, your team every day. Today's episode is brought to you by Supply House. When the opening whistle blows on a new repair, get your crew moving forward with Supply House. Order today and see parts on your doorstep tomorrow. Over 280,000 plumbing, HVAC, and electrical items from the most trusted brands in the business. Their real-time inventory and honest lead times keep you from punting projects, while their industry-leading customer service always has your blind side covered. Need parts fast for a project? Supply House has next day delivery. Talk about a game changer. And join the free Trademaster program today and score serious perks like priority shipping, lower prices, and a dedicated support line. Visit supplyhouse.com to sign up for free and use promo code SHCollege5 for 5% off your first order. That's supplyhouse.com. Real people, real service. Today's show is also brought to you by FanDuel. The NFL season is here, and FanDuel has an offer you don't want to miss. Right now, new customers can bet just $5 and get $300 in bonus bets if you win. That's right. Pick a bet, put down $5, and if it hits, you'll unlock $300 in bonus bets to use across the app. It makes watching football even more exciting when you got a little something riding on the action. Whether you're a casual fan or you love diving into the stats, FanDuel makes the game day experience so much better. So, what are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com to download the FanDuel app today to get started. And we're brought to you by Mazda. And Mazda moving the game forward. You see, Mazda crafts cars for those who do more than simply move. Mazda delivers confidence with every ride, with more IIHS Top Safety Plus picks, awards than anyone else as of August 2025. From footwork to breathwork, athletes sweat all the details. Mazda brings this same intention to how they craft every model. You can feel the Japanese craftsmanship in every detail, from metallic accents to available Napa leather upholstery. You can make everyday drives feel like anything but. From smooth handling to intuitive controls, with all-wheel drive standard in every crossover SUV, you can drive with confidence through almost any season. Like our players, Mazda sweats every detail, because when you make every move count, impossible becomes irrelevant. Mazda, move and be moved. One of the storylines that we've certainly spent a lot of time talking about is Clark Lea and Brian Kelly, the teacher and the pupil. Clark Lea, of course, was the defensive coordinator. It was on Brian Kelly's staff under Mike Elko when Elko was the defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. Lea was a linebackers coach when Elko went to Texas A&M to become their defensive coordinator. Clark Lea was promoted to Brian Kelly's defensive coordinator at Notre Dame. So there's a ton of mutual respect there. And Brian Kelly was asked on Thursday, when Clark Lea took this Vanderbilt job, he took a job that not many people in the history of that program had ever had success doing. And Clark Lea did not have a lot of success early, but he stayed the course. And Brian Kelly was asked how.
When you take over a program, right, and they took their lumps early on, it's easy to listen to the noise and go away from what your vision is for your program. Clark has never swayed from what the vision is that he had and the vision that he painted for everybody else there. And that's hard to do because you got so many people saying you should be doing this and why aren't you doing that and you can't win here. He's done an incredible job of avoiding the noise and staying steadfast in his beliefs as to what the vision is for his program. And it's a great lesson for other coaches. Look, at the end of the day, you have to be consistent at something. And his messaging, the way he wanted to build his program was consistent, and he's, it's showing itself now.
Clark Lea in his first year at Vanderbilt back in 2021 was 2-10, 0-8 in the SEC. Year two, they went 5-7, 2-6 in the conference. And when it looked like maybe they were hitting an inflection point in 2023, Vanderbilt was 2-10, 0-8 again in the conference. And that's when a lot of people thought maybe Vanderbilt would move on after 2 0-8 SEC records in 3 seasons. Well, a year ago, of course, we know what happens. Jerry Kill comes in. They make a great change, a great hire at offensive coordinator. They bring in Diego Pavia. Of course, Tim Beck calling the offense. Pavia comes with Beck with Jerry Kill from New Mexico State. Vanderbilt goes 6-6. They win the Birmingham Bowl. They upset Alabama. Impressive season. And now this year, they're 5-1 and 1-1 in the conference and now favored against a top 10 team for the first time in 50 years. So clearly, Clark Lea believed in what he was doing and the path. And I've said this on many different platforms. Barton Simmons, who is formerly a recruiting guy and has known Clark Lea a long time, is the general manager at Vanderbilt. And the two of them got together and collaborated to put together a roster where they realized they're not going to be in on 5 stars. So what they did was they went to lower levels of football and got guys that were 4th, 5th, 6th-year players, guys that are 22, 23, 24 years old. So you have an old, mature, experienced roster at Vanderbilt that can execute the plan that they have. And that really, as Brian Kelly explains it and has multiple times this week, is the game within the game this week. Because you see, Vanderbilt is second in the country at third down conversion rate. When you look at Vanderbilt, it's the thing they do very well. They're near the top of the country, and they lead the country in yards per carry. So this is a team in Vanderbilt that is outstanding at running the football, and they are second in America in third down conversion. They've converted 33 out of their 57 attempts for a 57.9% conversion rate. They convert 58% on third down. Well, Brian Kelly knows that is the game within the game. And it's not just because they're effective on third down. It's how Vanderbilt has been effective on third down. And Brian Kelly, by the way, I want to take you back to Monday, and then I'm going to let you hear him on Thursday. This was Brian Kelly on Monday. And the question was about Diego Pavia and what makes Diego Pavia good. Listen, not necessarily to the answer about Pavia. The question was about Diego Pavia. Listen how Brian Kelly answered it.
Make him one-dimensional. I think that those dual threat quarterbacks, if they can do both, you're in trouble. So we've got to really do a great job in the running game. And not to say that he can't throw the ball, because he can. They average over 200 yards throwing the football, and he's capable. But I think if you're trying to choose one or the other, he's going to kill you if he runs. So we're going to take the path that we need to be really good against the run and then put them in predictable situations. They're the best in the country in third down because they're in third and short most of the time. So we got to get them, off schedule. First down is really crucial for us. If we can get them again in second and third situations that are a little bit longer, we can be more predictive relative to the balance between run and pass.
Okay, so the question was about Diego Pavia, and what did Brian Kelly go to? Third down. He said best. They're second best, technically. Best in the country in third down is Utah is at 60%. They're 48 of 80. Vanderbilt's 33 of 57 for 58%. But splitting hairs here, they're outstanding on third down. But Brian Kelly's telling you, the question was about Pavia. He made it about third down. That was Monday. On Thursday, Brian Kelly was asked about Harold Perkins. How can Harold Perkins in this game specifically, with his ability to rush the passer, affect Vanderbilt's offense? Again, question was about Harold Perkins. Listen to Brian Kelly's answer.
Certainly, one of the things that we've done really well is put pressure on the quarterback. But I'll be honest with you, it's going to be our ability to control first and second down. Or third down becomes quick game, and it doesn't matter. You're not getting home. The ball's coming out so fast, you can't get there. So you've got to get into predictable third down situations, which then obviously that lends itself to us having some more success. So the real challenge here is first down and second down and making sure that when they get to third down, it's more than third and short.
Brian Kelly is giving you it's like in finals, when finals week, when the professor gives you the test, right? Or it's like an open book final. Like, you still have to answer it. You still have to know the answers and be able to communicate the answers, but he's giving you the questions. Like, here's the test. The test this week for LSU defensively is first and second down. Vanderbilt thrives on being in third and short, which is why they converted nearly 60% clip. By the way, in their lone loss against Alabama, where they scored only 14 points, and one of them, of course, was on a 65-yard touchdown run. Now, there were 2 red zone turnovers, but Vanderbilt in that football game was 5 of 11 on third, 0 of 1 on fourth down. So they were below their clip of nearly 60%. They were 5 of 11. So Alabama was able to get Vanderbilt a little bit more off schedule than they're used to being. Look at the time of possession in that football game. Alabama possessed it for 37 minutes. Vanderbilt 22. Alabama was 37 and a half. Vanderbilt was 22 and a half. So you're talking about for a full quarter more. Alabama had the football for a full quarter more than Vanderbilt. Alabama played keep away. They didn't let Vanderbilt get into third and short opportunities. Like, Brian Kelly's telling you, that's the game within the game. You're watching the game on Saturday morning. Watch first and second down defensively. Can LSU keep Vanderbilt out of third and short, making Diego Pavia a passer? And that's where the advantage shifts heavily toward LSU, where they can rush the passer, where LSU's great coverage units can maybe take over that game. The other thing, too, that was so fascinating, look, when you look at this game, it is obvious when you go like 1-85, LSU is a dramatically more talented team than Vanderbilt. And that will show itself when the NFL draft rolls around in April. This is an LSU team that has NFL players all over it. Brian Kelly said the number. They've invested $18 million in this roster. We know LSU is a supremely talented team. But Brian Kelly was asked, like, if he's having this conversation with his team this week about, like, how talent alone isn't going to get you home against Vanderbilt.
The first thing I said to him is that we're playing Navy. You know, we're playing triple option. You have to do your job. If you don't do your job, they're going to rip off a big play. So, you know, this is matching our traits with our talent. Like, you can't go in there and say, I'm just going to out-talent Vanderbilt. They're going to beat you. If you go into the game and say, listen, we're going to follow our traits, our discipline, our detail, we're going to play smart, and then bring our talent, that now we're in a much better position. But if you go in there thinking, okay, you know, we've got better players, and I can argue that in some places they have better players than we do. But the point I'm making is you have to bring those traits to a team that plays so well together.
They are 85 playing as one, is what he's saying. They have old veteran players who are experienced, that are executing their game plan at a high level. And listen, Brian Kelly drew the comparison to saying you're playing Navy. Remember, Brian Kelly at Notre Dame for more than a decade played Navy every year, played the Naval Academy, and knows the challenge in playing a team that does something unorthodox, that challenges your eye discipline, that doesn't necessarily have the 4 and 5 stars that's going to pump guys in the NFL draft, but that do the thing they do exceptionally well. That's what this Vanderbilt team is, and that is a real challenge. Now, a season ago, it was a similar Vanderbilt team, and that was a bad LSU defense, certainly by comparison to this LSU defense. And LSU a year ago really held Vanderbilt in check in that game last season in Baton Rouge. Now, of course, the caveat is that was in Baton Rouge and that was late in the season, but that is a Vanderbilt team that was a good football team that upset Alabama. And in that game that day, the LSU defense played well. Vanderbilt put up 308 yards of offense in that football game. They ran for 122. They threw for 186. They showed some balance. There were no turnovers in the game, so turnovers weren't a problem. But look at the time of possession. LSU held it for 35 minutes. Vanderbilt had it for 25 minutes. So LSU was able to possess the football for 10 minutes more than Vanderbilt. And then when you look at third down efficiency, Vanderbilt was just 2 of 10. LSU was 8 of 13 a year ago. LSU knows the game plan. They know the path to beating Vanderbilt. They did it a year ago with the exact formula Brian Kelly's talking about that we're laying out for you. And this is a more talented defense than a year ago. Can they execute the same? Can LSU possess the football running? In that game a year ago, Garrett Nussmeier had a nice day throwing the football. LSU threw for 332 in that game. Nuss was 28 of 37. But the Tigers also ran it 32 times for $139, averaging 4.3 yards a carry. Goes back to the thing we've talked about so much here. It is a commitment to running the football. You don't have to go run for 200 yards, but you have to commit to make them respect your ability to run, which will in turn open up the pass like it did a season ago, like it did for Ty Simpson when Alabama beat Vanderbilt a couple of weeks ago, and like it could happen Saturday for LSU and Garrett Nussmeier if they're committed to running the football to open up the pass. One more thing that I forgot to say, I did ask Brian Kelly the process of determining Whit Weeks and Jamari Butler. So they practiced limited on Thursday. They're still questionable. So when would they make the determination about those guys?
When we get to a Thursday, Matt, mostly we're game time decisioning, right? You know, they're making progress. We're seeing that there's a chance that these guys could be ready on Saturday. So then like Aaron, we worked him out in pregame, and he was just okay. You know, he wasn't explosive. And I don't want to put a guy out on the field that can't help us. You know, we're not going to put him in that situation. So we think we've got a little bit more time. We're less than 48 hours out, but we feel like we want to wait until game time.
Okay, so they'll get Whit Weeks out there, Jamari Butler. They'll run them around in pregame, see how they feel. If they feel good, they'll give it a go. I have a sneaking suspicion that those two guys are going to dress and they'll try to give it a go. We'll see to what extent they can be effective for LSU against Vanderbilt Saturday in Nashville, where we are. I got a surprise for you because I did record a crossover episode of Locked on LSU and Locked on Vanderbilt, which will drop Friday morning. So look forward to that as well. Hey, thanks so much for making us your first listen. If you're on podcast, please subscribe on your favorite podcast app. Rate us, leave a review. If you're on YouTube, smash that like button, subscribe to the channel, and hit the bell so you're notified whenever we post a new video. And let a friend know that they love the Tigers. We got you here every single day for Locked on LSU, your team every day.